Another way we make ourselves really stressed, and of course, this is probably the outcome of the committee, is the number of cognitive distortions or irrational thoughts that we use in our daily conversations, not only to other people, but to ourselves, because that's probably the most important criteria is our inner dialogue, how we interpret the reality around us. And I'd like to go through some of them with you. Many of them are quite humorous. And I want you to really think and reflect if you can see some of the common absurdities that you might play out in your own life. The first one is the need to be right. Oh, isn't it wonderful to be right? Oh, I'm right. I was right. I've been right for years. Part of being right is the I told you so. Didn't I tell you? I told you. I've been telling you this for years. I'm right. The need to be right gives you a narrow focus and turns people off. Even if you are right, make sure you leave people with a win-win situation. Ask yourself this question. Would you rather be right? Or would you rather be happy? How about mind reading? How many of you like to mind read? My husband loves to mind read. Sometimes I say, let's go to the movies. He says it's going to be crowded. It's always crowded. No matter what movie, it's crowded. When you mind read, you are a prophet in your own time because you can foresee things that no one else knows. This makes you very powerful. People say, it's going to be a long day. There's a lot of humor here. Where did you get this information? Did you hear it on the news? Have we all missed something? Did we get extra hours we don't know about? I got my husband a huge Swami hat and a crystal ball, which I encourage you all to get. You can wear it around your office. Just prophesize whatever you think is going to happen to equipment or people. Tell it in advance. This is a sure way of terrorizing yourself and others, so you can all twitch together. Share the bad news. Don't keep it to yourself. How about catastrophizing? If you catastrophize, a small leak in a sailboat means it's going to sink. Catastrophic thoughts often start with, what if? What if I get sick and have to go on disability? What if the server goes down? Yes, things happen. Things happen because random acts of happenings happen. You can be anywhere and something will happen. Because that's what it means to be human. But many of us are previewing problematic situations before they occur. So that means we get stressed twice. Once before it happens, and again when it does. Perfectionism. I know all about that. I can totally relate. I was an incredible perfectionist. Just a little clue as to how warped I had become. I was actually cleaning the oven dials with a Q-tip. Well, you never know. There are tours of people who stop randomly and check oven dials. It took getting older and realizing that they, whoever they are not going to show up. And you know what? Who cares? Who cares? Some things are just meaningless, aren't they? Like oven dials. There are incidences where our work needs to meet certain standards, but not in every area of our life. The perfectionist drives himself or herself and everyone else nuts with unrealistic demands. The car can never get dirty. Probably should hang on to the outside of it and drive it that way. The house and yard need to look like an exhibition of a house and yard. The desk is perfect. Everything matches. In fact, perfectionists would make great FBI agents because they would immediately know if the evidence was tampered with. Perfectionism can cause depression because there is never any satisfaction with what has been accomplished or how it's been done. Why not strive for excellence? Perfection is an illusion. Overgeneralization. When you overgeneralize, you limit your experiences. Things are absolute, final. There are no possibilities. Words like every, no one, never, always, and everybody, and nobody are part of your vocabulary. There's never any parking spaces. Never. That's because people take them in advance. I think this is probably one of the center of the universe philosophies, overgeneralizing. It's about, I'm so important, and because I am, everyone knows where I am, and they send people to disturb me. And see, this thinking precludes options. If there's no parking space, then your goal will be not to find one, and you will continually ride around until there isn't any possibility of finding one, which is exhausting, isn't it? Nobody around here cares about anything. That may be true, but they know you do. You're doing enough for everyone. The blame game. This is another one of my favorites. Oh, boy. I remember a lot of blaming going on when I used to own a fitness center. I'd ask people how they got out of shape. They'd say, well, I went to a wedding. I said, this happened to you at one wedding? It's always somebody else's fault. And it's fashionable today to try to identify who or what is making us unhappy, and then to tell other people so that we can act irritable, anxious, and unhappy and say, it was them. It was them. If they were taller, I'd look thinner. There are events that have occurred that have created feelings in us that were out of our control. Childhood traumas, family tragedies, accidents. However, many of us are trying to pass off our bad moods because we got stuck in traffic, or a coworker or client took more of our time than we were prepared to give. Other people don't make us mad, sad, or glad. We decide on some level to empower them to do that. We have the power to change how we feel by changing how we think. The more we think someone has power over us, the more power they have. I know, I brought up 3 children. Every time I told them they made me crazy, they continued. I had given them the formula. I've gotten my sense of humor back, though, because they're gone. Martyrdom. Ah, martyrdom. How we can give and give and give without respite. I call it the Mother Teresa syndrome. I am here to give. I will give until I can't give anymore. And on some level, that is antagonistic to the entire system, because when you're burned out, it costs us more money to replace you. So you're not really doing anybody any favors by bringing yourself to the level where you have to be scooped up and brought to a burnout unit. Martyrs are here to do whatever it takes for others. They seem to need little sleep, can forge ahead through flood and famine, and still show up for work. They'll probably even bring in cookies that they baked the night before for everybody, but they don't have time to take a bite themselves. They don't need it. They'll just smell yours. This type of thinking leaves very little room for self-care, and it makes you feel resentful when others are doing thoughtful things for themselves. Martyrdom gives people the impression that they're not needed, and so they sit by and watch you exhaust yourself. Then you get mad. The perception is that these people are selfish. They should be burned out and aggravated. Like me. The controls are, how many of us like to be in charge? I'm in charge. This type of thinking means business. No fooling around. Things are organized and scheduled. No deviation from the plan. My stepfather had this type of thinking. He wouldn't even stop to eat or let us go to the restroom once we were in the car because we had to get to our destination. He wouldn't even ask for directions. He could be lost, but never stop. Maybe that's what happened to Moses, because he was in the desert for 40 years. Maybe he was a control freak. Keep in mind that plans can change. Plans can change. Things happen. Be flexible and open to new ways of being. Sometimes companies have a way of changing things. Just when you thought, I got it, I can do this, it's perfect, I know how to do it. All of a sudden a memo comes, guess what? It's gone. New stuff. It's harder to change when your thinking is involved around being in control all the time. And then there's the tyranny of the shoulds. Many of us spend time shoulding on ourselves. I should have gotten up earlier and left before the traffic started. I should have stayed later at work. Shoulding doesn't feel good and it saps your energy. It's also a form of self-flagellation, and the only outcome is guilt, the gift that keeps on giving. Perhaps you've been able to see yourself along this little journey of distortions. One of the best ways to make changes is to admit to some of the thinking patterns that you have and perhaps to engage in a little bit of alteration. Also to laugh at yourself. We get so serious about how we think life ought to be. And you know what? We're never getting out of it alive. So maybe it's time to lighten up. And to go along with that theory, I'd like to take the rest of this time to teach you how to give yourself some TLC.